Good evening. I'm calling the Monday, April 15th, 2024 Parks and Natural Resources Commission meeting to order at 6:30. Tonight's Parks and Natural Resources Commission meeting will be held in person and virtually by using Zoom. As chair, I will be leading the Parks and Natural Resources Commission meeting. The public is welcome to participate when invited. Members of the public may attend the meeting in person or join online via Zoom. If you experience audio problems, we suggest leaving the meeting and then rejoining. This usually fixes the issue. Additional instructions on how to participate are posted online at burnsvillem.gov in the public meeting calendar. As usual, tonight's meeting is available for viewing on BCTV and the city's website. If you are unable to participate this evening and would like to submit public testimony, I encourage you to email your comments to city staff or mail your comments directly to City Hall. You may participate in the meeting online by going to zoom.us/join. You may also call in at 651-372-8299. For each public hearing, I will open up a time when callers may speak to that item and give more instructions at that time. Your call will be muted. Please note there will be a slight delay due to differences in technology. If speaking by phone, please mute your computer to avoid that delay. Now on to tonight's agenda. Our first agenda item is just the adoption of the agenda. Do any members of the commission have any changes to tonight's agenda? No. All right. Staff, do you have any changes?
Nothing from staff.
Awesome. You have a motion for the adoption.
Motion to adopt.
And do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? The motion carries. And now we're on to approval of the minutes. Consideration for approval of January 17th, 2024 Parks and Natural Resources Commission meeting minutes. Commissioners, are there any changes? Staff, any changes from you?
Nothing from staff.
May I have a motion to approve?
I so move.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Awesome, and that passes as well. At this time, is there anybody on Zoom who wishes to speak?
Madam Chair, it does not appear that way.
All right, and there is nobody in our crowd who wishes to speak tonight. So we will move on to the review of the 2024 Capital Parks Improvement Plan. JJ.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Commissioners, thank you for being here tonight. I know that we had to reschedule this meeting, and as a result, that's had an impact on our attendance here tonight, so I appreciate your presence. But it was important that we get this information out to you so that staff can begin working on these projects in our park system. So with that, there are 4 funding categories that go into the overall Parks Capital Fund. They are the Park Investment Fund, the Park Renovations, Trail System Development, and Technology and Security. And you can see the amounts that we have allocated for 2024 alongside those 4 categories. I will explain each category here in just a minute. The first category, the Park Investment Fund, which sits at $36,000. Funds in this category are dedicated to new park development or significant upgrades to a park or an amenity that would change your experience in the park. As you know, we are in the middle of our Parks Plan update right now, and we are hoping that $36,000 will be something different next year when we have direction on where we should be allocating our time and efforts and funds. So I anticipate that category changing in years to come. But for now, that $36,000, we keep aside some money so that we have money for supplemental projects. In the past, we've had programs come to us and want to put a library, little library in a park or somewhere like that, and we've had to come up with funds to do the concrete or the sidewalk up to it, things like that. So it's kind of supplemental work associated with donations that come to the city. In the park renovation category, this category is for the repair and replacement of existing amenities and facilities in our park system. It includes such things as fencing and backstops, field lighting or rink lighting, the rinks themselves, sometimes play equipment, or the recoloring of tennis courts or pickleball courts. Right now, these 4 items kind of sit as placeholders in our park system. So we have $200,000 allocated for the ice center parking lot. That money may be moved over to the facilities fund if there is a renovation project in 2025 for City Hall and the police station. It would all get done at one time, but we wanted to set aside some money in case there are some repairs that are needed more immediately before that larger project kicks off. We allocate money each year for bleachers. Obviously, this is a safety issue. We have bleachers at a lot of our ball fields and soccer fields and places like that. So we want to address any concerns that would come up with things like that. Roof repairs are identified for all of our warming houses and park buildings. I guess that's expanded to just kind of repairs for the facility itself, for the building itself, not necessarily just the roof, but all of those buildings take some wear and tear over the course of a year. And then again, the general renovations has $36,000 in it for issues like vandalism that happens, and unfortunately it does happen in our park system quite a bit. And we've got to go out and take care of that and clean it up and replace things right away. So continuing on in park renovations, we have a frameworks plan that was generated from the previous parks plan, and we have allocated $100,000 in that frameworks plan to help us, what am I trying to say? The ongoing removal of amenities that no longer serve a purpose or have run their useful length in life. We have a couple of park benches that were off the trail a little bit, and now the park is so grown over that there's just a picnic table in the woods, and it's kind of odd. It's time to have that removed and placed in a more usable space. So it's items like that. It's the removal of sand volleyball court frames, the old wooden railroad ties that outline a volleyball court, things like that need the renovation. So it's that ongoing work that we've been doing for quite a few years now. We've identified about $290,000 for 3 playground replacement projects. They're at Crosstown West, Colonial, and Wood Park. These have been on our repair list for a couple years now, and we are getting to that this year. We'll start with engagement in those neighborhoods and talk to the residents there to make sure what we're putting back into the park is the equipment that's necessary for the people that are using the park on a regular basis. We've got $250,000 identified in bituminous and concrete. Again, that's for renovation projects, not necessarily a new trail, as we've got other monies allocated for things like that. And then the Parks Plan update. We've got $120,000 in that line item, and that project is nearing completion. I believe, knock on wood, that we will have a presentation for you coming in June or July. But again, there's been a lot of work done on that, a lot of conversations with the community to talk about things that they want to see in our park system, and we want to share that with everybody. Trail system development, we have $100,000 still allocated for the Lake Marion Trail Gap. We've been talking about that for a few years now, and how it crosses over or under 42 and then through Sunset Pond Park and all the way up to Highway 13, et cetera, and across 35, or not 35W, adjacent to 35W over the Minnesota River. So, and that trail starts down in Lakeville, Lake Marion. And then we have $600,000 connecting our new, one of the newer neighborhoods in the heart of the city to the heart of the city. So from Pillsbury to Pleasant, there will be a trail through that area there. And then finally, the technology and security. This section is dedicated to it's an ongoing process of bringing Wi-Fi into our parks, of bringing security cameras into our parks, and then other endpoints like our security badges for getting in and out of buildings and things like that. So we've got $90,000 dedicated to those types of improvements in our park system as well. Commissioners, each year we bring back items to you that are a little bit larger in nature, that require another review, that require another set of eyes, that require more questions, things like that. And this year, like I just mentioned, hopefully we'll be bringing back that parks plan very soon to you. The other items, things like the replacement of the playground equipment at those 3 parks, that's kind of a one-for-one. It's not a change in how the park is being used, things like that. But the parks plan itself, that's going to require your review at some point. So, commissioners, with that, I'll stand for any questions or comments. But ultimately, we're looking for a motion in support of the 2024 Parks Capital Improvement Plan.
Just a couple of questions. One, with your park dedication capital fund, obviously, here, none of the, as you move forward in time, so 2024, 2025, 2026, it's all essentially the same allocated amount of money. Is that ever going to change in the future in terms of increasing or decreasing based on inflation and how much things cost?
Great question, Commissioner. My answer to that is yes, I believe, not yes, it's going to change, but our council takes a look at that. They understand that there is an inflationary cost. They're going to see the parks plan here in June also, and they're going to get a real good understanding of the dollar amount that it's going to take to and reinvest in our park system. And so I would expect that number would move one way or the other in years to come.
The other question is just with the Parks Capital Fund, 2024 appears to be one of the lower spending years, apparently. I'm assuming we'll learn what the much larger projects moving forward in 25 and 26 are when we get there?
Yes, absolutely. Again, 2024 is a little bit lower because last year when we started out on our Parks Plan update, we put a hold on any projects until we have definitive answers from the community about what it is they want to see in our park system and or at our parks and things like that. So that's why it's a little bit lower.
Okay.
Is there an estimate as to how much the cost of vandalism is every year?
Chairwoman, that again, another great question. If there is, if our parks crew keeps a total on that, I haven't seen it. But let me do some research and find out if we do have some type of tracking system in place to keep track of the dollar amount that vandalism has caused our system.
And the type of vandalism. It would be interesting to see kind of like what's the vandalism that's happening, how much is that costing us, and just if there's a creative way to circumvent some of that ahead of time too, depending what it is.
I think that's where the cameras in the parks comes into play, that added security level, things like that. So, yep. But I'll do some work and try to find that answer for you.
Perfect, I appreciate it.
One last question. With the general funds, like the general park improvements amenities fund, $36,000 each year, does that always get spent, or does that sometimes carry over?
It does. Well, I'm trying to recall going back a few years now. I believe it typically has been spent. If it hasn't been spent on a specific project, it usually goes towards some bigger project to help cover an additional amenity with that. I'm thinking back to when we did some work down at Nicollet Commons Park. I think we used funds from other accounts and helped fund all of the improvements that were necessary down there. So I think that typically the answer is yes, all the funds will be spent in any given year.
In some way or fashion.
In some way or another, yes. There are plenty of things, there are plenty of ways for our parks crew to spend that money to complete those renovations and upgrades and things like that in our parks.
I have a question. So the pickleball courts, there's no money allocated. Is that because they're relatively new and they don't anticipate needing any work for a few years? Or is it also they're not planning on investing because of the new proposed pickleball, what is it, the big?
Alley Magnet?
An Alamagnet,
No, the new, where the old garbage dump was. Aren't they proposing like this huge complex that has pickleball courts and?
Commissioner, if they are proposing that, I don't think I haven't seen that or heard that. It sounds amazing.
There was something in the
but
sun,
it's-
wasn't there?
Restaurants, big pickleball courts.
That's a private development. That's not a, yeah,
Yes.
obviously that's not a
They're
parks or a
keeping you in
city.
the dark,
a city-
JJ.
which is fair, and most of the time it's safe. Commissioner, there's still conversation happening about pickleball courts in Burnsville. We were talking about pickleball courts at Alamagnet in 2023 when the brakes got put on park projects. And so I believe that there will be, actually, I think that was 2022 that we started talking about pickleball courts at Alamagnet. The brakes were put on in 23. And so if the parks plan comes back and still continues to say, yes, we need additional pickleball courts in Burnsville, then we will certainly be looking for the best place to put those courts in Burnsville.
I also noticed a line item for Oakleaf West. Where is I'm blanking on the name of it, but the park that's over by the manufactured homes going towards Savage? With the bridge and the fen.
Are you referring to Rudy Kramer Nature Preserve, that area down there?
No.
Sue Fisher Park, where the ball fields are?
No, the park that we toured a few years ago where like it's over by the manufactured homes. And then there's the very large space that was a baseball field, completely overgrown, the protected fen. And then you go up the path and there was like that little picnic area if you go up and kind of around that illicit activities like to take place at.
Yeah, Kelleher Park.
Thank
I'm
you,
sorry.
yes.
I'm sorry, Kelleher Park. I don't know why I was spacing on that.
I spaced it out too, so it's fair. It's fair. We're equal. I'm glad that my description was helpful. But I see that Oakleaf West Park is on here. Where is Kelleher in terms of the renovations?
Commissioner, Kelleher Park is going to be a park that's going to require a specific plan for that park because they're not talking about. We're not talking about just putting one for one back into the park. We're talking about that possibly being a trailhead for that trail. Some other larger facilities, or not larger facilities, a building structure in there for outdoor education courses or whatever it might be for rentals or for groups like we have at other parks. But we do know that maybe the equipment that's there now isn't exactly what the neighborhood needs or is not in the right location in that park for what the neighborhood needs or wants. So there will be a parks plan dedicated to just that park and how we renovate it with input obviously from the neighborhood and surrounding folks too.
So it's just a much larger project, and we're not quite there yet to have a line item. Is what you're saying.
Correct.
Okay.
And in fact, I think this commission did some work on that pre-plan design. I think it was either 3 or 4 years ago. So there are some things in place, and we will obviously keep this commission involved in part of that process.
Thank you. All right, Commissioners, any other questions? All right. And so at this time, we need a vote to approve the CIP. Does anybody have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve?
And do we have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Nope. Well, there you go, JJ, it passes.
Thank you, Commissioners.
You're very welcome. All right. Let's see. And so we got the handout of future meeting dates, so we all have that information. And then at this time, is there anything else from staff that we need to discuss?
Nothing necessarily from staff commissioners. Again, I just want to say thank you for making this changed date meeting work on your calendars. There's a short turnaround. Our next meeting is in early May, I believe May 6th. It's on your list?
Correct.
Okay. And so there'll be a short turnaround and we'll be together again in just a few weeks.
Perfect. At this time, I would like to request a call for adjournment of the April 15th Parks and Natural Resources Commission meeting.
I move to adjourn.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right. Well, good night, everybody. Thank you so much. We'll see you in a couple weeks.